Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, speedsters. It's time to cool your jets, slip into a lower gear and ease off the revs. It's time for Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. And here he is, complete with his roller skates, knee pads and stack hat, fresh off the rink. It's our speed skater extraordinaire, it's Matthew Dickerson. How are you, Matt?
Good, thanks. I didn't know you knew about my skating skills.
Well, when you showed up with those knee pads.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Roller derby. I used to watch roller derby or some roller derby movies.
It was a movie with James Caan in it.
That's the one, yeah. And I thought, that looks like a fun sport, but wow, it looks crazy.
Mean.
Yeah, that's right. So I didn't do roller derby, just rolling down the driveway, I think. And yes, the knee pads were needed. But this week I've been to the opening of a new bridge that was built in our area.
Oh, I love an opening of a bridge.
Opening of a bridge, very exciting. Now, the old
Did
bridge...
anyone ride past in a horse, like with a saber and cut the ribbon?
And had a ribbon there to cut. No, they didn't put the ribbon across the road because cars were still going on it. So
Okay.
that might have been a bit clumsy. But it should happen more often, shouldn't it?
Yeah, they
it
should.
gives something for people to talk about with a bridge. But the old bridge that was there, we talked last week about skyscrapers out of timber. And one of the issues that many places have in regional locations around Australia is that they've got timber bridges. We don't have many timber bridges left in our area, which is good.
Timber bridges.
They look beautiful.
They've got character, haven't they?
They do, but they're terrible.
They are. And you bounce and bounce and bounce.
Well, this old particular bridge, when I used to ride my bike out of this particular direction, I was a bit wussy and I used to stop and walk my bike across because there were gaps between the timber planks. Some of the friends I rode with used to call me a bit of a wuss because they'd ride across very carefully to make sure they didn't slip down between the cracks, but I was never brave enough to do that. But when we had that discussion last week about timber and how timber's now being used as an advanced construction material, we talk about skyscrapers, and I was thinking about this when we talked about this particular bridge. The old bridge that was replaced was 75 years old. That seems like a reasonable length of time, but there were some severe repairs being needed over the last couple of years. The normal 42-tonne weight limit had been brought down to 15 tonnes for a time. It had a 20-kilometre speed limit on there. It had me walking across it. So it probably hasn't been in a great state for maybe the last 15 or 20 years. And then I looked at the new bridge that replaced it, and it's nicely formed out of concrete, prefab concrete that's put in place there. And I talked to one of the engineers and I said, so we got 75 years just out of our last bridge. What's this bridge? How long is this bridge going to last? What's going to start to fall apart? Because the timber in the old bridge did start to decay.
Yeah.
Maybe there were some termites, I don't think so, but it probably just had natural decay of that timber.
It was covered with creosote and all that sort of stuff. The termites wouldn't have had too much chance.
No, I wouldn't have thought. They did say that some termites were attacking, but I just thought if termites attacked it, the bridge would have fallen down pretty quickly because termites are pretty vicious on timber. So it just decays naturally. And so I looked at the new one. How long is this going to last? This is fantastic. It looks beautiful now. Concrete and steel, what could go possibly wrong? His estimation was it's 100 years before we touch it. That's it.
Yeah, right.
And now he said I wouldn't be surprised if we got 200 years out of it. So then I started thinking about those skyscrapers we talked about, and I thought that's lovely they're making skyscrapers out of timber now, but does that mean in 50 years' time, well, we're going to knock it down, we could have gone for 100 years?
I guess a skyscraper is going to have less wear and tear on it than a bridge is going to have on it.
Well, that's right. One of the things that the engineer that I spoke to did talk about was the little suspension components on the bridge, the little bit of give it has and the rubber pads. He said, we'll probably replace those every 10 or 15 years, but that's only a minor component of the bridge. So, you probably haven't got the same stresses. But then again, you got wind putting a lot of stress on a skyscraper. So I do wonder. Anyway, someone knows what they're doing, don't they?
That's right.
In that
that's 100%
CLT cross-laminated timber we talked about. So surely they thought ahead for a 50 or 100-year time frame.
For sure.
I hope.
All right, folks. Well, in today's episode, we've got a bunch of developments for better or for worse in the realm of AI, just as there is in any marriage, but there's no divorce in sight here. AI is here to stay. We'll check out the value of an old wind turbine and we'll see the value of the newest fleet of container ships. But to kick off today, we're going to talk about some robots. And what good are robots if they're not doing the very jobs that we loathe? No one looking for a robot to do all the cool things that we enjoy in life, like riding roller coasters or taking picnics in the park. No. Robots have a place in the world, and if they can't fold washing or move boxes in a warehouse, then I say scrap them and use them for parts. Matt, what have agility robotics put up on our Christmas lists this year?
I'm with you, James. If they can't do the menial little jobs that I don't want to do.
They're only good for the boring, mundane things.
That's right. I don't want robots to do welds on my car because Sure, that's used to me when I buy a car, but around the house, that's not much use to me. I need robots that can do the menial, laborious, boring tasks.
You're not interested in one iota.
That's exactly right. And that mainly involves housework. I'm pretty much there. We've had this discussion around the hoverboard for many years. Damn you, Back to the Future. You brought all these things up that people wanted. There's a weird science song about the hoverboard, and I'm impatient and I'm waiting for it. And so we are impatient for the hoverboard, and I'm struggling to see the physics behind a hoverboard that actually works. But robots, Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, I can see that in not even our lifetime, in the next 5 years. And here we are.
Yep.
I don't know that I love the name of it, but this robot is called Digit, which most people would associate with a thing on your hand rather than a robot. But Digit's a humanoid robot, as you said, developed by Agility Robotics. It's designed initially to do some stuff around warehouses. So, for example, moving boxes, doing repetitive tasks, and they are very quick to point out not to do people out of a job, which I'm not quite sure how it doesn't do people out of a job. But
well, someone had to do it before this point.
At some stage, didn't they? Surely. So they're not going to do people out of a job because those people that were doing that job now can do other more useful jobs, but surely it replaces someone somewhere along the line. Ignore that for the moment.
Yeah, I will.
They're doing the boring parts, and other people will be looking at controlling the robots or thinking about how to control the robots or having
Maintaining
a robot
the
team.
robots.
Maintain the robots, that's right. Designing robots, doing something. So in the early stages, they're really saying, let's use them in a business, and they've got some businesses using them. And there's a good reason for that, because the first little impediment we have for this robot is the number 310,000, which is the cost of the robot in Australian dollars. So that puts it out of the market for me as a
yeah, that's right.
I could pay my kids.
I was honestly going to, but no.
Yeah, that's it.
It's
300 would have been okay. The 310, that pushes me over the edge. So I think I could pay my kids pretty good money to start picking up their clothes, and it'd take me a long time to get to 310,000. But for a business, you might be able to say, well, that's justifiable because that replaces some staff. Now, they also offer robot as a service. So you can pay a monthly subscription fee. I don't know what it is, but I can't imagine it's $10 because you're taking something worth 310,000.
Yeah.
Think if you bought a car for 310,000, what that might be. So it'd be a reasonable amount, but a good way to try it out. And the other thing you're looking at there is what's the cost of that versus the cost of an employee or 5 employees or 10 employees. And this thing doesn't stop. It doesn't have toilet breaks, doesn't have meal breaks, doesn't complain when I frown at it, when it's on the assembly line, not working fast enough. So there's a whole range of advantages there. But the exciting part about this, of course, is for me personally, being selfish here, if we've got them on the showroom, or not the showroom floor, on the assembly floor, the manufacturing floor, if we've got them doing some of these tasks, if they're charging a lot of money for them, surely as we go forward, not too far away, they're in my home for a lot less money, folding up the clothing, putting stuff in the dishwasher. Once upon a time, we would have complained about doing the dishes. Dishwashers came along. Now we complain about packing the dishwasher. But doing those menial tasks around the home, surely we're not too far from that.
So if you're prepared to wait, maybe I can get you one for 2029.
Oh, I want to go earlier than that. I want to go. I'm not sure how generous you are with me, James, but if we can bring it down a bit, I want to get one, Christmas 2 years' time maybe.
2 years' time?
Yeah, I'm being ambitious here.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming you really like me and you're incredibly generous with me.
But I'm going to hold you to it. I'm excited. Someone's going to have one of these robots under their Christmas tree.
Absolutely.
In 2026.
Now, a few things I like about it. It does use a large language model. It does use an AI for discussions and understanding instructions. And I did see a demonstration where it was doing the laundry, so I was pretty excited about that. The hands are interchangeable. A bit like, Captain Hook.
I was just going to say, that's where my mind went straight away. If they can have a hook?
That's right. I'm not sure what hands it could have because I just thought...
Can they do the accent?
Well, I hope so. That would seem reasonable. If you're going to have a hook for a hand, you need to talk like Captain Hook. So I thought, what other hands might you need? Some suction cups maybe? Maybe that would be a useful thing to do. Yeah.
I would have thought just 5 digits.
Well, it seems to work okay for us, doesn't it?
4 and a thumb, yeah.
Remember that little golden book, was it? I Wish I Had Duck Feet?
Yes. One of my favourites.
Yeah, so maybe I wish I had duck hands, maybe. So the robot. Anyway, I'm sure they'll come up with different things, but for the moment they've got hands, and hopefully at some stage in the near future it'll be able to do things around the house. And I think better than Rosie, because Rosie was a bit limited, because Rosie had a wheel, and that's a bit limiting around many houses. Stairs, bumps, just going from carpet to timber floor, maybe a whole range of limitations there. Humanoid form is what we want, and which is why a lot of these are coming out in that humanoid form, because obviously you want to be able to get around the same places that we get around.
That's right.
So bring it on, I say. It's
Here
happening.
it comes.
Digit, the humanoid robot.
You heard it was promised by Matt, Christmas 2026.
That's it. Promise that at some stage, for some amount of money, you'll be able to get something like that.
Yeah, right, okay. For those of us using AI regularly these days, you'll know that the feeling of having generated a piece of work for a specific job, scanning the work for obvious errors and satisfyingly submitting said piece of work as your own, it's very satisfying indeed. AI has the potential to do an awesome job for us. It's a bit of an ego boost, but Matt, are we just kidding ourselves?
Well, James, you look wonderful today.
Oh, well, thank you.
I
Put a lot of effort in.
love what you've done with your hair today. It's quite attractive. Everyone knows someone that is incredibly complimentary, and it sounds lovely when they say it to you.
Yeah.
And then when you hear them talk to someone else and they say the same thing, oh, James, you've lost weight this week. Oh, your hair's looking lovely. And then the conversation is repeated over and over. You go, well, it just feels a bit cheap now. You're saying the same thing to everyone. You didn't really think my hair was nice. It's just a standard thing you say.
Yeah, so it's like following someone around and just hearing them compliment everyone on their hair.
Exactly. Then you think, well, maybe my hair's not so good after all. And this is actually a bit of an issue with AI. AI is so nice. When you get answers back from AI, it starts to increase your ego. You get flattery back from AI. You think that what you're doing, as you say, you submit some work that you went, I worked pretty hard on that AI, really asking it the right question to get that work for me.
Yeah.
And then you get feedback from
really well.
That's right, whoever you submitted the work to. Wonderful work there, James. You go, oh, thanks very much. So there's a risk, according to some psychologists, that we'll get so many compliments. I learnt a new term doing research for this story. So many compliments that we will get from AI, toxic positivity.
Oh.
I've never heard of that term. And I thought, how can positivity be toxic? But it's so positive, everything's so wonderful that you don't have the downside, you don't have the critical analysis. It's just all wonderful.
So quality drops because everything's so wonderful.
Everything's wonderful. Yeah. So how do you know what really is wonderful when everything's wonderful? So hold on, I worked really hard on that project and did a great thing, and I know you just did 5 minutes work and the teacher said they're both wonderful. Well, mine was better than yours, so surely I get something a bit more positive than that. So this is a really interesting phase that we're moving into, and I want AI. I want some AI that's good about attitude. I was working and doing some work with AI the other day, just asking a few questions, and I realised that I asked the same question that I asked earlier on in the conversation, and I kind of almost gave myself a quick uppercut and said, you've already asked that question, don't ask it again. But AI, being very nice, answer the question faithfully and loyally as if I'd never asked it before. I want AI to say, Matthew, you've asked me that already, asked and answered.
Come on, Matthew.
That's right. Don't keep wasting my time asking the same. I've got to go and look it up again. I've given you the answer. Just stick it in that little feeble brain of yours, that human brain, and remember that you've already asked that question, please. You don't get that attitude out of AI. And I think we need a bit of that attitude. We need it to say, I'm not answering that question for you. You go and work it out yourself. Surely you can work it out.
And there's a lesson we learned out of the story of Snow White. You know, the Wicked Queen. She went to the mirror, and who's the fairest of them all? Mirror said, "Sorry, it's no longer you, love."
Yeah, for all those years, and she wasn't that attractive, was she? So
well,
I'd argue
that in the eye of the beholder.
Maybe I'd argue that mirror had been lying for a long time. So
that was our first AI.
It was actually, but it's probably a good example in that AI always tells us they're wonderful, always tells us it's great. Even when you submit a bit of work sometimes, say, can you just check this for grammar and spelling? The typical answer I get back is, I really like what you've done here, or this is well worded. Here's a couple of suggestions, which means it wasn't that well worded after all.
Right. You could have done better though.
Yeah, that's right.
You get a 7 out of 10.
So we keep reinforcing this bias about ourselves, and then we get to the stage where we become more narcissistic, more self-involved, more selfish about everything we're doing because AI keeps telling us we're wonderful. So
we probably need that less than ever before. Like we need to be told these days.
We do.
To extract
I suppose if you want to
and go a bit harder.
Get a dose of reality, just go on any social media site and put up a comment and you'll probably get a quick dose of reality there.
Yeah, that's right. Fair enough.
Maybe AI needs to go and moderate some of those social media sites and start putting a bit of positivity on there. So we've got to be careful. And absolutely flabbergasted I'm saying this. We've got to be careful about toxic positivity, about being too positive about things. So that's where AI is at. I'm going to keep saying please and thank you to AI. I'm going to keep being positive with AI and see if it keeps being nice to me.
Doesn't hurt to be nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, feeding toddlers is a treacherous game. Yeah, is that banana going to be received favourably today, or will it be sent to the floor in protest? Will there be tears either way? Is that yogurt as nourishing for hair as it is for stomachs? What new allergy are we likely to discover today? And what is the record time for a dash to the hospital? Matt, in 2024, with all that AI can actually do, can it put together a menu for an octopus in a string bag? And by that I mean a toddler. Yeah.
It can do a whole range of things, but people are now using it for meal plans and in particular for toddlers. But there are dedicated chatbots that are doing just that. That's their whole job in life, is to create meal plans for toddlers.
For toddlers.
Toddlers can have
chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets, that's right. That's it.
Chicken nuggets tomorrow night and chicken nuggets tomorrow night.
And look, if you're good,
night.
Chicken nuggets for breakfast as well. What the heck? If you've got special dietary needs, you've got preferences you like, you've got allergies. Actually, allergies have gone through the roof over a 10-year time frame.
Yeah.
The number of people, this is in Australian hospitals, the number of people who have been admitted, number of young people admitted to hospital with some sort of anaphylactic shock has increased by 350%. So that's quite a big increase. And again, what happened beforehand? Did those people just get really sick and then got over it, or did they die, or are there more allergies being introduced? So it seems like there are more allergies being
there's a number of different theories. We won't go into them right now, but there are a number of theories about what's happening with our young people right now.
So if you said to your chatbot, your AI chatbot, here are the allergies I've got to be aware of, here are the preferences for my child, here are some things that I'd like to be aware of, I'm trying to pump some muscles, I get some more protein to the diet, whatever it might be, and it'll do a few things for you. It'll say, here are some suggested meals. A bit of variety, that sounds like a good thing, because some days some meal might work, the next day the same meal may not work. So
can it tell if banana is going to be favoured today or not?
Well, that's where I'd like some other tests. At this stage, no, but that is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's just, I had banana yesterday and I loved it, and today I don't like the banana.
It doesn't look good, it's a bit mushy, maybe it's a different ripeness, but yeah, you're right. The other part that I love about it is you can say, here's what I've got in my fridge, in my pantry. I've got these 10 items. What can I do with those?
Works some magic.
Yeah, works some magic with those. So it can suggest that. It can suggest some alternative ingredients. Just if you use those, but you've just had a couple of extra things, here's what you could do with that. But it's all about that variety, I think, and making sure you're getting good, healthy eating. 23% of adults in the US are using AI for a whole range of tasks, including meal plans. It might be travel itineraries, it might be a whole range of different things. So people are getting the hang of this. A quarter of people in the US are using this for different things. You're asking your questions, using it in useful...
fantastic tool.
Yeah, using it for useful things throughout the day. I think with toddler meal plans, the other thing, of course, you've got is you can do any meal plan. It doesn't have to be toddlers, but there are chatbots dedicated to toddlers. There are the chatbots who are saying, we'll just do meal plans for you. We're not that far away. We've had smart fridges in the past. We're not that far away, I don't think, from having our smart fridges know what's in the fridge. Some other way of having scanning in our pantry to see what's in our pantry, and then it'll just be a matter of saying to AI, you know what I've got.
What am I cooking for dinner?
Tell me what to put together.
20-minute total preparation time.
And I've got Digit, my humanoid robot, to cook it for me, surely. So we know what we've got, put it all together.
Not before 2026.
No, sorry. For the next 2 years, you have to cook it yourself. After that, though, stand back. So I just think it's a great concept to take all that information and put it together. Now, when barcodes were first introduced, I'm sure there was some pushback. Wrigley's gum, I think, was the first product ever to have a barcode on it.
Yeah.
So it's not much good having one product with a barcode, because you're at the checkout and they're just scanning through the prices and go, what do I do with these funny lines here? Obviously, you want everyone to get on board. I wonder how far away we are from someone saying, forget barcodes, they're so last century. QR codes, sure, they're fine, but not really for products, but maybe some sort of RFID. So you can have it scan across a scanner in a supermarket, but more importantly, when you take it into your pantry or fridge, you've got an RFID scanner there that just automatically knows what's in there. That's one random idea, but surely we'll have some way of knowing what we've got available, so our AI tools can say, here's what you need to put together to make a nutritious, wonderful, scrumptious meal.
Fantastic. Now, if you thought navigating your way through the internet on a daily basis without getting scammed was a challenge, spare a thought for the hapless entity that is AI. For AI, it's enough just to concentrate your search into a suitably sized, palatable package. What chance does AI have to discern a scam from legit data, Matt?
I don't think we'll feel so bad. Now, anyone that's been scammed out there, they shouldn't feel bad about it because scammers are good. But when I'll tell you some of these stats, it's a bit scary. Now, we know that AI is being used to generate scams because it gets the English a bit better. You don't have this broken English where you know that it looks like it's not legit. It's being used to help scam. So some researchers at JP Morgan AI Research said, let's see if AI can be used to trick AI. Let's feed some schemes to AI and see, is this something we should do? Is this legitimate? And the results are pretty scary. When you look at ChatGPT 3.5, which was one of the models they used, it was scammed with these 37 different scam scenarios. It fell for them 22% of the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot worse than humans.
Yeah.
So we're better than ChatGPT at something. If you go to ChatGPT 4, then it got a bit better. ChatGPT 4 is a bit more advanced than 3.5. It only fell for them 9% of the time, which I still thought was a lot. And then Meta's got their Llama 2, and Llama 2 is pretty good, only 3%. But if scammers could get 3% of humans to fall for their scams, they would be blown away. I don't know what the percentage is because the scammers don't give us good data about how many emails they send out.
How much you ask?
But I imagine there would be a minuscule percentage of people that fall for them, much lower than 3%, for example. So it gives you an idea of how good these scams are, how legitimate they look. And the other thing I think it points out to me is that I like to use ChatGPT for things where it's not that important if it gets it wrong. If I say, what travel itinerary should I put together for a holiday I'm going on, and it suggests a few things, which I then got to go and buy tickets for, and it got one of them wrong, and I couldn't buy a ticket for that event or whatever. It's not the end of the world. It's something where you go, well, that was okay. It was a guide. It was a suggestion. The same as I talked to a friend down at the pub and he says, you make sure you go and see this thing. It's fantastic, but they're not running it in winter or whatever it might be. So that's okay. But if it starts to get important stuff like,
if
should I cut here?
ChatGPT how to do a heart
open
bypass.
heart surgery. Yeah, that's right. Cut here. Are you sure you should cut there? Is the neck the right place to cut for an open heart surgery? So I think one of the things that some of these researchers talked about from this was that you want some human oversight for important tasks, sensitive tasks. Use ChatGPT, use AI for a guide, but when it comes down to final decision making, maybe humans are okay for that still.
What people need to be educated in these days is how to be discerning with ChatGPT, with any AI engine at all.
And I do find myself sometimes I'll ask a question of AI and I get an answer back which I just don't think looks right. And I'll say, are you sure? Yeah. And then typically I get a very polite answer, I'm sorry, glad you asked. No, I was completely wrong actually. So it never says that. It says, here's the correct information, but it never says I'm completely wrong.
But to just ask it a question or ask it to do a job for you and then just go with whatever it gives you as a gift from above.
I remember a maths teacher way back in early school somewhere and they said, use a calculator, sure, but just have an idea of the order of magnitude of the answer, or maybe just have a couple of the numbers that you're multiplying together, for example, that you've got a bit of an idea. This should start with a 6. Hold on, it started with an 8. Does that look right? Oh, I know I punched in the wrong number. Or the order of magnitude is probably the big one.
The message to my students is it's not a magic box.
No,
it doesn't give you the right answer.
No.
It only tells you the answer to what you asked it.
As we always say, computers are obedient but stupid, although some maybe not so stupid anymore, but it will do exactly what you tell it to do. If you tell it to do the wrong thing, it'll still give you that answer. So I think it's the same with AI. A bit like the calculator, just be vaguely aware of what the answer might possibly be. Yeah. And then when you look at it, you go, yeah, that makes sense, or maybe it doesn't make sense.
Just be ready to, at least ready to ask the question of it, rather than just, now that I've got the whatever you spat out to me, that's the gift.
That's the gospel, that's it. It's absolutely right. No, just question a little bit, challenge it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, it's time for a turbine update. Now, one of the biggest problems with wind turbines, as pointed out by skeptics and naysayers, is that they have a finite lifespan. Not much recyclability or reusability. Matt, is there any good news on the recycling and or repurposing front for wind turbines?
So one of my favourite words about wind turbines, but I never know how to pronounce it, is nacelle. So
that's how I would say it.
You'd say it, right? The box that sits on top, I often call it the gearbox holder that sits on top. But the technical name for it is a nacelle. And obviously in that, you've got that big box that sits on top of the tower. You've got a wind turbine sitting at the front of it, but inside that, you've typically got a gearbox. You've got some sort of generator. You've got a brake in there so that when they're doing some maintenance on the turbine, they can actually stop the turbine from spinning. So you've got a bit of stuff in there. So it's a reasonable sized box. I've been in one of the boxes when it's been on the ground. I haven't been in them while I've been up in the air because I'd prefer to do it while it's on the ground because they're pretty high up.
Yeah, they are enormously high up.
I see those pictures where the guys are tied on and standing on top of the nacelle, and I go, inside I could kind of cope with it.
Vertigo, yeah.
No, that's right, but on top I go, no. Anyway, at some stage, the manufacturers of these are saying, well, we've got better ones now, we've got better generators, better gearboxes in there, and retrofitting those in situ is quite difficult. So typically the solution is they just take it off and put a new one on there. The tower's already there, all of the underground wiring's already there, so everything's ready to go. Don't knock the whole wind farm down, but if you replace those and put new turbines on, then you're going to get a better outcome in terms of either upgraded infrastructure or just ones that have been worn out. Then what do you do with the old ones? Well, they're made of metal, so you can probably melt them down and use them again. That kind of makes sense, but some people in the wonderful land of the Dutch have said, we've got a better use for them. Once you take out the generator, the internal components, you've got quite a tidy little spot that can be used for tiny housing.
Oh, right.
Now, in terms of size, you've got about 36 square metres is the floor area of one of those. And if you compare that to containers, so a 40-foot container, sorry for the imperial there, but they seem to be measured in feet, a 40-foot container is about 28 square metres. And they're often used, containers are often used on mining sites, for example, easy to transport, container-sized things are easy to transport. So they're similar to that, a little bit bigger than that, so luxury living compared to a container. And they're being retrofitted and they're actually being shown off as we speak to say, here is a way to reuse rather than recycle. And obviously reusing, repurposing can be much more efficient than just a straight recycling when you've got to use a lot of energy to melt it down and then build something else with it. So you'd still take the generator components, the gigabox components, etc. You'd still take those out and do some sort of recycling with those. Maybe that is melting it down, but the actual shell itself, let's do something different with that. The blades can be one of the trickier parts though too, and there's not a great solution for the blades at this stage. You can, yeah, that's right. You can break them down, but there's a fair bit of energy used to break them down. So you're going to get your money's worth out of them over a 25-year time frame, and then again in 25 years, what are they going to do with them? 25 years ago...
Well, there's a lot of research going on at various universities to work out what we can do with turbine blades. But yeah.
And 25 years ago, when they were putting up these nacelles, they weren't thinking, let's build a home out of those in 25 years' time.
I just think the ingenuity there is fantastic.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. People are very clever. AI didn't come up with this, did it? People came up with this, so there, up yours, AI. So people are coming up with very ingenious ways to use what we've got and the things that we'll need to use anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing some neighbour move in their nacelle.
There you go. All right, folks, listen in carefully now because we have the news item that you've been holding out for all this time. Bust out the confetti cannons and sound the trumpets. Geeks and nerds unite in a rousing chorus because the world record has been broken. Matt, in October 2024, we found a brand new largest prime number. Tell the people the news they yearn to hear so badly.
They've been hanging out for this. And this isn't just any prime number, though. This is the largest Mersenne prime number. So that's a special type of prime.
That's a special word, and I'm going to be excited to learn what that actually means.
There's only 52 Mersenne prime numbers that we've discovered so far. Now, Mersenne fits... It's exciting news, isn't it? The Mersenne fits the formula of 2 to the power n minus 1, right, where the number itself is the power of the n is a prime and the formula is a prime. So to give you a quick example, right. M2, so the first Mersenne, M2 is 2 to the power 2, so 4 minus 1, 3. So the 2, the n is 2, so it's a prime, and the result is 3, which is a prime. So if we jump forward to a few, if you go to, say, for example, M7, 2 to the power 7, so 7 is a prime, 2 to the power 7 minus 1, 127. that's a prime number as well. So Mersenne primes fit that formula, m to the m n, if you like, equals 2 to the power n minus 1. The n must be prime and the result must be a prime.
This is fantastic.
So
yes.
you can see why there's not many of these.
Yeah.
You only need to get to, for example, so I'll run through a few. M2, M3, M5, M7, M13, M17, M19, M31. You get to M89 is number 10 in the Mersenne list. That number, the resulting number, 2 to the power 89 minus 1, has got 27 digits in it. I won't read out all 27 digits here, but you get an idea how quickly this builds up. I'll go and put a cup of coffee on. So the 52nd Mersenne prime has just been discovered, worked out, and this is part of the GIMPs, the Great Internet Mersenne Prime Search. These are some serious geeks that just love to play around. Now, it was playing around in the beginning. It's getting a bit more serious now. Let's just talk about, first of all, M136279841 is what it's commonly known as. So it's 2 to the power of that minus 1. The length of that, the length of digits of the result of that, has got 41 million digits, 41 and 24,320 digits. I won't read out those for you as well, which is pretty good. M51, or sorry, the 51st Mersenne prime, only had 16 million digits.
Right.
So it's gone from 16 million to 41 million digits. The text file, just a straight good old-fashioned text file that contains this newest prime, is 42 megs in size.
Right. So I reckon if you're going to write that out in pencil, you're going to need multiple pencils.
At least two, I'd say. So this is a concept with the GIMPs, if you like, where there are some nerds around the world who are using some spare computing power and using a combined computing power to try and work out the next one in the series. It's taken a while to work out this one. I imagine the next one is going to take a long time until we get quantum computing, which it will say, 52 Mersenne primes, here's the next 100. Easy. But this particular one was discovered by Luke Durant, a former NVIDIA, well done, Luke, you've got to use your time, a former NVIDIA employee. He spent $2 million, so he did well at NVIDIA, obviously, $2 million using spare GPU time on 24 data centres across 17 countries. So it started out, I'm sure,
that guy needs to get another hobby.
It's an expensive hobby, isn't it?
Jigsaw puzzling.
My wife gives me a hard time because I like riding mountain bikes, and that cost me a bit of money.
Cube.
Yeah, that's
so
right. Do
cheaper.
something else. So he's used all of that power. Took him a few years, and again, you're paying to use some of this power, which is where the $2 million got soaked up. So he can now say, "That's it. I've now got the largest Mersenne." Now, why do we care about Mersenne
Until
primes?
someone gets the next largest one, and
That's
then
right.
he's lost his notoriety.
Yeah, but you can always say, I had number 52, I suppose.
Yeah,
so
I guess so, yeah.
they could contribute, theoretically, to cryptography. So using some of these in basically creating perfect numbers. So you can use Mersenne primes. They're better for cryptography than a normal prime. They're better for perfect numbers than a normal prime. Really, it seems like...
But if it's got 40 million digits, even a computer's got to think a bit too hard about it. If it's just trying to...
You want a strong password? Well, here we go. Some people describe the whole concept of GIMPs as just entertainment for math nerds.
Yeah.
But you need more of them. It's a bit like watching soccer. Apologies to any great soccer fans out there, but the highlights reel is like one goal. The whole match, 90 minutes of soccer, I get one goal. Well, entertainment for math nerds, well, there's only 52 of these. How entertaining can it be looking for the next one, or even looking at the last ones? It's probably not that entertaining with only 52 of them. I reckon go for primes. Just keep looking for the next
But
biggest
even
prime.
looking at them, how long can you stare at 40 million digits?
That's right. Here's the text file. Go and stare at that for a few
These
days.
numbers become so big, they become meaningless, right? So
I think a million is a meaningless number. I think it's hard for people to comprehend a million. You think of a million anything apart from maybe dollars.
Yeah.
You say, I'm going to eat 1 million donuts. It's a big number.
Yeah.
And how do I envisage 1 million donuts? How long is it going to take me to eat? It's a big number anyway. So when you start to get to a number with 41 million digits, yeah, that's a big number. So anyway, well done, Luke.
Well, and as you say, we now need to find a purpose for this.
Well, that's right. There's kind of a purpose for this particular number. there's probably not a lot of purpose for this one. But early in Methane Primes, I think absolutely.
Good luck to the next guy with finding the 53rd one.
Yeah, that's right. I'll report it, James. Don't worry.
I
as
can't
soon as we find it,
When the news breaks.
our listeners will be the first in the world to know about it.
Fantastic. Batteries are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and rightly so. As a resource that so often goes into waste at the death, how much toxic landfill must batteries be taking up these days? Batteries equal fewer resources, tiny batteries I should say, equal fewer resources used up and less waste. And tiny batteries can be used in devices such as implants and be far less cumbersome. Just how tiny are tiny batteries though, Matt?
Tiny batteries. This one's got 3 droplets. 3 droplets. We're talking about 3 liquid droplets of hydrogen.
Well, how big's a droplet?
Yeah, it's pretty small. I'll give you a measurement in human hair, of course, because we don't like to use SI measurements here. The battery, the 3 droplets together, measures 600 micrometers for those people who want to be boring and use SI units, or basically 6 human hair widths. So that's pretty small. Now, they've been using this battery so far in a pacemaker for a mouse. And that's nice that a pacemaker is being installed in a mouse.
Yeah,
except
saved a very old mouse. From
it didn't, because they took the heart out of the mouse to use it on the mouse outside the heart. So I'm guessing the mouse didn't go so well. Yeah, so they've been using it to power that. They found that this particular battery, these 3 tiny droplets of hydrogel, is about 1,000 times smaller than other flexible lithium-ion batteries. So we start to think, well, this is pretty interesting, and what are we doing with it all? The whole idea here is about things in our body. Now, people that do have pacemakers that are still in their bodies, that humans have pacemakers, they typically get installed with a sealed battery. And that battery can last, depending on your activity levels, 5 years, maybe 10 years in there. Maybe even it might stretch it to 15 years if you're not doing much. But the solution to replace that battery is open you up and take it out and put in a new pacemaker.
Yeah, wow.
So it's not the easiest solution. They've tried to do some things where you might charge it remotely, so you might have some sort of wireless charger on the outside of your body and then charge up your pacemaker, but that doesn't seem to work so well so far. So if we could have some sort of liquid battery, one of the things I thought of, and I didn't read it in the story, but I thought a really obvious thing would be you've got a liquid battery in your pacemaker, surely to recharge it would simply be a needle through your skin into the pacemaker, and then you insert the needle and fill it up again with the 3 components that you need, for example. So that's one particular use that obviously makes sense. But there's so many things I think we're going to have on our bodies, some sort of micro-robotic devices in our bodies. Wearable, sure, is one thing, but things in our bodies, I think we'll see more and more of those doing work inside our bodies. A bit like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Go inside the body and have a look around. Let these little robots do things inside there, but they need power to do that. What can you do with power? Well, 3 droplets, 6 human hairs.
That's incredible.
Yeah, quite incredible. So the 3 parts of it are, you've got one droplet has got lithium manganese oxide, that's the negative electrode. Another droplet's got lithium titanate, and that's the positive. And then you've got lithium chloride, which separates the positive and negative electrodes. So quite fascinating. Imagine just the ingenuity of coming up with these concepts for 3 droplet battery. In fact, you'd question someone that came in and said, I'm going to make a battery out of 3 droplets of stuff. You'd say, what were you smoking last night? But people are doing it. And I just think we will see more and more devices in our bodies, and they need power to run them. We haven't got the Iron Man power source like in the movies yet. So this sort of thing will be how we'll be using that.
The more that AI becomes intrinsic in how common things are done these days, the more heavy lifting that AI does for us, the more waste we can expect to be generated as a result. Matt, the predictions about wastage in the near future just from AI aren't so encouraging, are they?
They're not. And we've talked about this before. When you do an AI query, it's using about 10 times the amount of electricity as a normal Google search. A lot more work's being done, but the reason it's being done is because there's a lot more computing power. So you need more computers for that. If we keep going down the same path we're going now, just AI alone is expected to generate 2.3 million tonnes of e-waste annually by the year 2030. Now, I know some people don't comprehend 2.3 million tonnes, so we'll give it to them in real units. It's about 12.3 billion iPhones. There's our new measurement of weight, an iPhone. And if you think about
swimming
that,
pools would that require?
that's right, of all the water in those swimming pools. So if you think about that, if you looked at the population of the world, about 8 billion at the moment, but let's say everyone over 15 has got a mobile phone, that might be, say, 6 billion people. That means if everyone got 2 new phones a year and threw them into a rubbish tip somewhere, that would be the equivalent. So it's a fair amount. Now, researchers are saying we've got some things that we can do. At the moment, most data centers are replacing their servers every 3 years. Could we stretch that out a bit? Could we stretch that out to 4 years? That would make a dramatic difference. That's obviously another 33% lifetime that would give to those. So that would reduce our e-waste. A lot of the parts are, it's cheaper now just to throw them out and replace them with new parts, but maybe some sort of e-waste cost for these manufacturers. They might start saying it's now cheaper for us to pull these apart and reuse, repurpose, recycle the various components of that. It's not really happening at the moment. It's cheaper for them to mine and remake rather than use some of those old components. So they're doing what's the most cost-effective way, and that's throwing out all of these. So it is a bit of a problem. The whole AI side of it, if you like. I mean, this is e-waste. There's e-waste with other things as well, but the whole AI side is where we're going. We talked recently about Microsoft, who are basically getting a whole nuclear power plant switched back on just to power some of their AI processes. So it's a big deal with power. It's a big deal with the actual servers, with the equipment we're using as well. So we need to get AI to solve this problem for us. Surely there's a problem to solve.
Yeah.
So get onto that with AI and fix that problem for us.
Do something useful for once.
Just to scare you a little bit more, the average Aussie produces 22 kilograms of e-waste per year, and that's about twice the global average. So we're not
I don't
great.
reckon I'm generating that much waste.
22
So I
kilograms.
reckon someone's making up for my deficit.
Well, you're thinking about that for your personal things, your phone, your computer, your tablet. But what about when you go and do a Google search? There's a server somewhere that was used to help
I'm
for
going to
Google
stop Google
search.
searching.
That's right. I'm going to start using any other computers when you're doing things in a work environment. There's a server somewhere. And so when you start to think about all the other places, when you're using GPS and getting a map to tell you to go somewhere, there's some computers involved there. So we're interacting with lots of computers on a daily basis that we're not really thinking about, because I thought the same as you. My first thought was 22 kilograms. No, I'm really good with my
Someone's
stuff.
been really wasteful out there.
That's right, they're throwing away all those phones. But then when you start to think about all the different ways you interact, when you sit down and watch a streaming service, that's stored on a server somewhere.
No, it's in a magic cloud.
Sorry, I take it all back. You're right. Someone out there is being really
The
greedy.
stuff I've been watching is just floating about our heads.
Good.
We told you that green cargo ships were on the way, and I'm not just talking about painted green, I'm talking about green cargo ships, and they've been on the way, and the Pacific Grebe, let me say that again one more time with feeling, the Pacific Grebe is about to hit the water. That's a ship, folks, bringing back all the romanticism of the golden age of sail. All aboard, Matt. Let's sail for the head of Cape Horn, or around the head of Cape Horn even. Let's earn that anchor tattoo 2024 style.
I want to do some skit around specific and Pacific. Because so many people get confused about those two.
Yep.
I've gone for a sail in the Pacific Ocean. Which ocean is that? The Pacific. Do you mean specifically the Indian Ocean or the Pacific? Anyway, I digress slightly. But we've talked a little bit about this, and I love it when we come back and revisit a concept that we've talked about before as it progresses, as these things often do. So this is a ship called a device called the Fast Rig. At this stage, it's a 20-metre tall wing sail, and they're putting it on ships. So one
like
that
the Pacific Grebe?
Yeah, Pacific Grebe is one that's on. That's a ship that transports nuclear waste. So not sure how much nuclear waste is being transported, not sure where it's going to.
Yeah.
That's right. Somewhere, maybe in the cloud somewhere. Maybe they're putting it up there with other stuff. But effectively, if we can get this right, the testing they've done so far, and just for those that are concerned, the testing they've done with the Pacific Grebe is with no nuclear waste on board in case something goes wrong. But the testing they've done so far is that this particular fast rig can reduce fuel usage by 1/3. So this sail lays flat
That's
on the deck.
amazing too,
It pops
because
up
that's-
20 metres high. It's got obviously lots of computer technology in there to get the sail facing just the right way with the right foil on them, and then looking at all the wind that's around.
But the wind isn't just pushing the sail, it's also driving turbines as well. Is that right?
Well,
No?
yeah, they did talk about that as well, where they're using that to generate some power as well. I think that's a minor part of it. The thing that
Okay.
I'm excited about is the sail. And if we go back, well, thousands of years, probably Mesopotamian times, maybe, the Vikings, wherever, but sails were used pretty effectively a long time ago before we had internal combustion engines. So sails, it seems like we're all excited. Look at this, the ship's got sails. Well, they did that thousands of years ago, actually. But we've got more reliable shipping methods now rather than waiting for the wind. But this is being used to actually help. So not replace the engines, just reduce the amount of fuel that's being used. And that's pretty good for a start.
And did you say by a third?
By a third, so significant. But as we keep going forward with maybe hydrogen, maybe electric, although I don't see electric being used for ships, I see more things like hydrogen, then surely if it's more efficient, whatever we're using as a fuel source, surely having a sail to make it more efficient, whether it is burning a fossil fuel or it's using some sort of cleaner fuel, it sounds like it's good all round. Now, in their first testing, as I said, a 20-metre sail, and when they're looking at what they might be doing going forward, they've also got a model for a 34-metre sail to basically get more wind, so to increase the help from the wind and decrease the amount of fuel they might use. There's about 40,000 cargo ships around the world, so they produce a lot of emissions. If you can start to retrofit, it is, isn't it?
If you'd asked me how many cargo ships there are around the world, I would not have said 40,000.
I remember a lateral thinking problem one time that had how much has the ocean risen by all the ships that sit in the ocean. And it was basically nothing was the answer, I think. So I remember going through and doing some calculations on it. And when you realise just the incredible surface area of the ocean and how much each ship raises that, then Archimedes and his bathtub, not quite the same as the ocean. So not much basically was the answer. But effectively, this might be a way to retrofit because we've got new ships coming out. We've got new, better ships. But all those ships, you don't want to go and just park those and say, well, we can't use this anymore because they're burning fossil fuels because there's a lot of
float.
That's right. There's a lot of stuff that's already been used on those. So retrofitting all those would reduce logically the amount of emissions from all cargo ships by about a third, you would think. So quite a clever design. I really do like the concept of it. It seems like old school, being new again, using old technology for new things again. A bit like using timber for buildings. I'm a bit focused on this timber, I think. So. But it's good to see this, something that we talked about as a theory, now being used in real ships and being used to start to retrofit some of those 40,000. That's a bit job and a half, wouldn't you? There's a contract for you. Go and get that contract.
And time to head for that Cape of Horn too. Yeah, go and get yourself a tattoo.
That's right.
Well, that's all we have for you today, folks. You've all got things to do and places to be, so no excuses. Enough of this lollygagging. Time for the next thing. Chop, chop. Thanks for another cracking tech talk, mate.
Well, I'm going to start planning what Digit's going to do for me. I've got some ideas around the house.
Yeah, okay.
In 2 years' time, we'll have floor drobe in place, the kids' floor drobe, where the floor will basically take up their clothes. So I think I'll leave that for them so that when Digit comes along, I can say, get to those clothes on the floor, pick them up and do the laundry. And maybe I can think of some other clever things to do around the house as well. Can I get Digit to paint my house? Forget paying a painter to do it.
Can you get Digit to write down all the prime numbers?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going from here. I'm inspired. I'm going to take out some A4 paper and some pencils and just start from 1,
That's right.
then 2, then 3.
And you're not going the Messane, you're going just good
all of
old-fashioned
them.
general primes.
Yes.
You rebel.
And I'll circle all the Messane ones.
Oh, of course,
in red pencil.
Yeah, that's reasonable. So why don't we just say to ChatGPT, can you give me the 53rd Messane prime? Wouldn't that be easier?
Well, just ask it.
I'm going to ask it after this.
And we'll attach your name to it.
That's right.
All right, thanks for tuning into another Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk is brought to you by a small army of short orange men in overalls and in no way related to any characters of children's fiction and or Hollywood films who may or may not be subject to copyright. But gee whiz, they did a good job today. I'm your host, James Eddy, signing off for another episode. We hope you've enjoyed yourself and learned a little bit today, just enough to want to come back for another helping later on. We'd love to have you along for the next ride, and heck, why not bring a friend along as well? Catch you again in another week's time.